to you. Will you do sort of a, like, show us the website also, Miller Nichols website? Because I'm not sure how much background everybody has. Not everyone maybe did 110 or English 225 here, so they may not have been through sort of that sort of introduction.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, I would love to do that because that would also give me more fodder of things to talk about and explain. So the more that I can go over during the session, I kind of prefer that. So that is good. Okay, so what we will do then, I will give a quick introduction of some of the website features. And because I'm recording this, if you need to go back, now I talk slow anyway. I'm from the country, I'm from North Carolina, so we all talk slow down in the South. So I doubt that I'm going to talk too fast for anyone, but still, if you want to go back and view this recording, I'll have the file sent to Dr. Wood somehow, and you will be able to access it later. So the first thing we will do is go over some of the things that can be helpful from the Miller Nichols Library website. So I am going to share my screen and make sure that there is nothing on my screen that I don't want y'all to see. Let's see. All right, cool. We should be good to go. Okay, so first of all, if we are going to do any research on from Miller Nichols Library, what we want to do first is go to the homepage. And the homepage is, of course, you can always just Google Miller Nichols Library and it'll come up, but the homepage URL is library.umkc.edu. And there are a few things on the webpage that I do want to, on our homepage, that I do want to kind of show you all. So we are going to go ahead and look at a few things. First of all, I always start out by showing people contact information. In that way, if you forget everything else that I say today, and I hope you don't do that, but if you do, if you find yourself forgetting every single thing that I said, then I want you to at least remember how to get in contact with us. So if you go to our library homepage, which is library.umkc.edu, you will be brought to a page that looks like this. And what you can do is you can go to contact us, and this will show you all the various ways that you can get in contact with us. So the most popular way to get in contact with us is by chat with this generation. You all are digital natives, so you've been chatting probably pretty much your entire lives. And so the chat is our most popular service for students to get in touch with us. From 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, you will have this, this feature monitored by actual UMKC librarians. And during the weekends, as well as after hours on the weekdays, this chat service is monitored by librarians who work directly for the state. So it's best if you want some research assistance, specifically for something going on at UMKC, the best thing to do is to try to reach out to us again Monday from 9 to 5. And I'm just gonna make sure they are there. That should say this is, so I apologize for that, but hopefully they will respond. And if so, then I am not a liar and they were, all right, there we go. So yes. And this is one of my coworkers, Danny, who's very, very knowledgeable and very, very helpful. So if you get her on the chat, then you know you are going to be successful in what you are trying to research. All right, you can also call us. Our main number is 816-235-1526. I will show you all my phone number in a second when I look on the staff directory, but we're going to skip that for now. Also, you can email this main portal. And again, I would recommend that when I pull up my email address that you all copy it down since I'm familiar with your assignment. But if you can't remember my name, which again is Jason, then you can always go to the Ask a Librarian email here and type in a question and somebody will get back to you. You can text us 816-656-2898. And before I go into the staff directory, I will say that for you all, depending on what you end up doing, you may need to access one of these special libraries. And so this is how you're going to do that. So for instance, if your research takes you to needing to reach out to the law library because you need to look up a Missouri statute or something of that nature, or some ordinance within Kansas City, or if you are looking for something within our special collections or our sound archives, or even our university archives, then what you can do is you can click contact for whichever library you're trying to get in touch with. And you just fill out the information here, including putting in a little message, and somebody will get back to you by email. Okay, so again, this is if you need to access the sound archives, the university archives, the law library, or special collections. And you just may, depending on how your research with this project goes. All right, and then finally, if you need to reach out to someone specifically, and that would include me, then you can go to the staff directory, and this will populate. It's trying to load right now. Okay, so this here down here says that it is trying to load. There we go. All right, and so this will be our full directory. Now, if you need to actually reach somebody by department, and most likely you would be, for this assignment, you would be reaching out to somebody in the teaching and learning department. So what you can do is you can go to staff by department, and then you can scroll down to where it says services and resources. You can scroll to teaching and learning and click that, and you will be brought here. And this is all of the teaching and learning librarians. So my contact information, oh goodness, okay, again, is here. So Jason Austin, you can contact me at austinj@missouri.edu. And my direct number is 235-1875. Because I'm only on campus twice a week during the pandemic, it's best to reach me by email, okay? All right, any questions on any of that? And I cannot see your faces, so if you have a question, you may want to just unmute and shout. All right, very good. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to, we are going to look at a few other resources on the University Library's website. So it is helpful for you all to know more than just how to contact us. So there are a few other things, since Dr. Wood permitted me to, that I will go ahead and show you. All right, other things that you might want to be aware of, and we have a new person. Okay, and they're not in the waiting room, so they should be able to get in right away. All right, so as far as when the library is open, that is a big deal these days because we are on some reduced hours due to the pandemic. So these are our normal hours for the spring semester. It's going to be Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 10 p.m., Saturday and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. There may be weather exceptions, and then also outside of weather exceptions, there are going to be things related to Easter or spring break that will cause us to go on reduced hours, okay? Now, when the pandemic, if the pandemic ever ends, then when it ends, then we will go from 10 p.m. back to 2 a.m. So we'll be from 7:30 a.m. to 2 a.m. on the weekdays, but we are not there yet. Now, also, as far as spaces, once the whole pandemic thing is over, we plan to go back to this model where we allow quiet conversation on the ground floor, regular conversation on the first floor, and light conversation on the second and third floor. The fourth floor is going to be a silent area no matter what. So please do not, even after we start allowing group reservations again, please do not go do group work on the fourth floor. But for right now, because of the pandemic, we are actually making everybody social distance. So you will have to sign an agreement when you come into the library saying that you will follow our COVID rules and everything, and you will be subject to disciplinary action if you do not. And then we right now are only allowing one person per table or one person per study room. And we do hope to change that when we can, because again, it's not something that the students like by any means. The library was a popular place to get group work done, but unfortunately we have to Well, we have to keep safety first. So because we want you all to remain safe, we are going to have to keep you all separated. Okay. There are computer labs in the library, and I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this, but again, if you're at our homepage and you select technology here, this will tell you what kind of computer labs we have in the library, as well as what kinds of electronic equipment we loan out, which includes laptops and some other things, battery chargers for phones and that sort of thing. And then also we do have printing that's available to all students in the library. And if you need more information about printing, again, go to technology. And then here in printing, this will teach you a little more about how to print, what you're allowed to print, and the $42 printing quota that you have every semester. So all students basically have $42 worth of printing already preloaded onto their ID cards. So if you have not used that, you might want to try to go into the library and use it if you're going to go into the library anyway, because otherwise that doesn't roll over into the next semester and you all pay enough in tuition. So I suggest you get as much bang for your buck as possible. Okay. All right. And if you have any questions related to technology, printing, scanning, and those sorts of things, we do have scanners, by the way. So if you find a document that you need for your project that is UMKC in-house use only, then you can most likely scan those pages if you're not allowed to leave the library with them, and you can scan those files and access them by email later. Okay. And if you need any assistance with that, the workers at either the circulation desk on the first floor or the ground floor can help you. All right. Moving right along, there are a few other things that I just want to acquaint you all with very quickly from the library website. First of all, if you need help with Zotero, I don't know how many of you are actually using the Zotero citation software. I don't use it myself personally. I don't trust citation software, so I always just do my own citations. And then the Writing Center in the Writing Studio, in the Atterbury Success Center, they will help double check your citations and things of that nature, so you can make sure they're correct. I understand that you all are using MLA style, so they can go over your MLA citations with you and make sure they're correct. But I would trust those over the generated citations that you will see in the databases. And Zotero also has been known to have a few errors. Now, if you do need help with Zotero, then I recommend you trying to reach out specifically to, and I'm going to go back to contact us. So if you want to learn that citation management software and use that, I'm going to tell you the best two people for that. I apologize if this thing takes so long to load. I'm going to give you their names while it's loading. So you would be, there we go. Okay. So our in-house Zotero experts are Tracy Hughes, who does actual Zotero workshops. So if you want to know when the next workshop is, you can email her and ask her for that information, and she will tell you how to sign up for a Zotero workshop. So she's very good at using Zotero. And then also Anthony Rogers, who is one of our, he was a librarian in training, basically. That's what we mean by academic library fellow. But he's also very good with Zotero, and you can reach out to him as well for assistance. I recommend, if you need Zotero help, to email both Tracy and Anthony, and whoever gets to you first will be the person who assists you. Okay.
Jason, can I interject? I'm with you on not using citation generators, but if you do use them, you do need to double check what gets generated against a guide. We will be doing that in class. We'll access an MLA style guide and make sure that everyone's got correct citations. So we'll practice that in this class. It's something to think about for the future. Thanks, Jason.
Oh yes, awesome, awesome. And in my experience, not that I'm telling undergrads not to do the extra work, because if you are an overachiever, go ahead and be an overachiever. But in my experience, most undergrad projects don't need the citation software. the learning curve is such that you actually pretty much spend as much time just learning how to use this citation builder as you would just making your own citations. Now, when you get to grad school, like I've written a dissertation, I've written a 250-page dissertation. When you actually write a dissertation or a master's thesis, yes, having a citation tracker can be very helpful, but for most undergrads, it's just not even necessary. So I would recommend, again, just if Dr. Wood is going to work on that with you in class, just trust her judgment and trust her instruction, and postpone the Zotero stuff until you get to grad school and you are working with 50 and 60 different sources at a time. The last thing that I am going to show you all on this website for now is the overview. Now we're going to come back to this website again because we're going to be looking at specific databases. But I do just want to go over very quickly the interlibrary loan is an option for you all as well. And I'm just going to do a quick example here of, I'm not actually going to put in an interlibrary loan request. I'm just going to tell you when you might want to use it. So let's say that you are most of what's going to come up here is going, well, in this case, everything. Okay, so everything that came up here, you actually do have you have access to an open source version of it. So in this case, you wouldn't need to use the interlibrary loan because you have the information right there, right at your fingertips here. So if you see this little link over here, that means that you have the immediate access. But if you did not see this link here, then what you have is an entry in the Google Scholar that you would need to put in an interlibrary loan request for. I'm actually just going to take 18th and Vine off of this just to, okay, so let's say, all right, so let's say this is actually a good example here. So we've got something from the Journal of Criminal Justice, 1975. And this is some article to where you only have the abstract online. So you don't have the full text here. So if you needed this for your paper, then what you could do is you could actually come to, instead of paying, because what they're going to try to do is get you to pay. If you click get access, then they're going to ask you to pay $20 for it. Don't ever pay for a journal article. That is why you are in school and why you can use interlibrary loan. So what you could do is from our homepage, you could select, actually, I probably did that too fast. From our homepage, you can select this interlibrary loan option. And any journal article that you see that you don't have free access to, what I recommend you do is go to new request, and you can put in an article or a book chapter or a book, whatever the case may be, but you can select the appropriate thing, fill out the information, and 95% of the time, within 4 days, we can get you the PDF copy of the article that you're not able to access online. And that's included in your tuition. So again, don't be shy about using it. The more you use it, the more you get out of all that tuition you pay. All right. So that is, yes.
Jason, also interlibrary loan works for books. I mean, if this information is only in a hard copy book, then it can be requested through ILL, and the library will figure out if it's possible, and it'll be sent to the library and you can go pick it up. We're still doing that, right, Jason?
We're doing that, but it is a little limited. So yes, with the books, we are getting more interlibrary loan requests for books, and well, successful requests for books. There was a time when libraries weren't sure how the virus was actually sticking to physical materials, so they weren't loaning those out either. But now more and more libraries are confident that they know how to actually sanitize the books before putting them back on the shelves or before putting them out in interlibrary loans. So yes, if you find, so some of these were books that came up. So if you found, like, for instance, this book, the Kansas City Preventive Patrol Experiment, if you found that and wanted to request it, instead of going to article, you could go to book and you could fill out all of this information here. Now, what would happen, excuse me, what will happen is with the book, if they cannot get it on interlibrary loan, and usually if we can't, that's due to COVID. Again, that's just how things have been over the past few months. If we can't get it on interlibrary loan, we will send you a message letting you know. And there may be, just because we couldn't get the book through interlibrary loan doesn't mean that we can't necessarily get one of the book chapters. So if you find that there were specific chapters in the book that would be helpful to you, if you get declined for a book request, put in the book chapter request for the chapters that you may need and try it that way. All right. And were you about to say something, Dr. Wood? Oh, okay, cool. All right, so that is how that works. And now let's go into some resources, and these will be the resources that help you. These are the resources that I feel are the most likely to help you with the research you're doing based on the topics that you all have chosen. I am going to request or ask that you all also, one of the weird things about UMKC, and this is very uncommon, but it's unfortunately how our funding model works, is that most academic libraries do have access to the local newspaper. We do not have the full text back access to the Kansas City Star. I know the UMKC reason. The UMKC reason is that the Kansas City Star is attempting to charge us way too much money. I don't know the Kansas City Star's side of the story, but anyway, even though we don't have that access, Mid-Continent Public Library, Kansas City Public Library, and Johnson County Public Library all have access to the Kansas City Star. So I'm going to request that you all join one of those libraries online, and it's very, very easy. And even if you don't live in Jackson County, if you live in Johnson County or Wyandotte, I still believe that those counties are still, they still have access to being able to join Mid-Continent because they have a reciprocal membership agreement, okay? All right, so before we get into the public library stuff though, for the Kansas City Star, there are a few other things that I recommend you all look at. So first of all, if you are at our library homepage, if you go to this articles and databases box here and select databases, then you will be brought to this overview page that will have all of these databases listed, and there are quite a few of them. So the main thing to know when you are trying to get directly to things that will be most helpful for Kansas City research is, from all subjects, what I'm going to ask you to do is click on that, and I'll do this slowly. So if you click, again, if you see this all subjects here and you click on this, scroll down until you get to Kansas City Metro Research and select that. And this will take you really to just 7 different options. And these are good options to start out your research. So the reason why, again, I'm pointing you in this direction is because it's going to save you some time, because there are hundreds of things if you don't go directly to the Kansas City Metro Research, and we want to focus on the local because we are doing Kansas City as text. So first, let's check out the Kansas City Business Journal. This has a very simple function for searching. So if we click that, it's going to ask you for a login if you are off campus. The only reason that it hasn't asked me for a login is just because I had logged in earlier today. That's the only reason why. But you will log in with the same credentials as your UMKC username and password. And then you would basically just try to do different searches here. And this isn't always going to have wonderful results for every single search, but you're going to have to, just like when you're playing around with Google or when you're playing around with some of the other library databases, like if you've used Academic Search Premier before, what you're going to do is, in addition to searching specifically for your own search terms, or like, let's say you are doing research on the Toy Museum, you can put in the exact terminology, Kansas City Toy and Miniature Museum, and see what comes up there. and you'll get some returns here. You're not going to get a whole lot of returns with this, and actually we got very few on this one, but you're not going to get a whole lot of returns on the Business Journal. But depending on what you're looking for, this is a way to get things that are more targeted, and then a lot of times things that are more specifically related to business or to economics. So we've got, I think there's just a casual mention of the Toy and Miniature Museum here.
Jason, can I ask a question? Isabella's interested in sort of the branding of Kansas City and how Kansas City seems to be known more for sports than for arts.
Mhm.
So this might be a source for Isabella.
Yes. So one thing that you will find here, and again, you're going to have to wade through some, I'm not going to say it's just like Google, because I think what we do is a little better than Google. Google has algorithms that work in kind of a for-profit fashion for them. We do not, but still, it's going to be a situation where you're going to have to play with a bunch of different terms, and you are going to have to wade through some results that might not be as relevant early on. But if you are patient, you will get to some things that are a bit more relevant. So for instance, when we do have Kansas City Chiefs and branding, or you could put Royals in as opposed to Chiefs, and then click search there. I get more results with this search because I just did this search a few minutes ago. So I get 45 results. Now, again, not everything that's here is directly relatable, but there are going to be some things that may, for instance, and this was one that had caught my eye related to that topic, why the Kansas City Chiefs poor logo ranking matters. This is from 2018, so it's got a little bit of age on it, but at the same time, this is something that, and this is a little bit of an opinion piece here, but it's something that deals with the, just with, there could be negative effects, I would say, for Kansas City to be this closely associated with that Arrowhead and the Arrowhead Stadium and things like that. And that does overshadow some of the wonderful things that we have related to architecture and cultural heritage resources and things of that nature. So when looking for things like branding, yes, this would be a helpful resource to look at. Oops, should have put Royals. But so in addition to searching for Kansas City Chiefs, maybe also search Kansas City Royals. You can also do Kansas City. I would recommend that you put quotes around Kansas City or the names of specific teams like the Kansas City Royals or the Kansas City Chiefs. And that way it's searching for Kansas City together and not searching for Kansas and for city separately, if that makes sense. So, and then this will get you access to some other things, but then you want to search some adjacent things. Just also you can search for sports and branding in general and see what happens. So this wouldn't be Kansas City specific stuff, but still you would, and you might want to, if you see where you have like over 3,000 results like you have here, then another thing to do, like let's say that these results are going all the way back to 2006, 2007. What you can do is you can create a little date range for yourself. So if I do this, then hopefully this number will go down specifically, and then I can at least get newer items. Yeah, and so that cut us down from about 3,500 to about 1,300 things. And again, you're going to have to play around with your terminology a lot in order to actually get more specific to what you're looking for. But still, there are a wide variety of things that you can find within this Business Journal, Biz Journal. So again, also if you do a search for 18th and Vine, because I understand that you all are looking specifically either at Crossroads Arts, 18th and Vine, or at UMKC. So you can kind of search for those things as well and see what pops up there. So as you can see, you have a lot of results, 172 results for 18th and Vine. You can just scroll through and see if what's captured here is something that is going to be helpful for you in your research interests. Okay. All right, so that's Biz Journal, and that's a good place to start for several of your topics, but there are a few topics that is not necessarily the best place to start. Okay, so if you find yourself not doing well with Biz Journal, then again, if we go back here and go back to Kansas City Metro Research, then a second place you might want to go to is Regional Business News. You will see that here. And this database is one of our EBSCO databases, so it searches very similar to if you all have used Academic Search Complete or a similar database before, then this has the exact same look. This probably looks very familiar to you, but this is a database that is very useful for finding things related to Kansas City specifically. So, and one of the topics that might be good to start out here would be if you're doing, I think someone was doing like Westport and preservation, excuse me. So if you put in, I will also say that you don't even have to worry about using subject terms in this case. So a lot of times with the freshman and sophomore papers, we do have to guide them to using subject terms because they are dealing with broader subjects. But you all, because you're dealing with Kansas City specific subjects, you're not going to have to do a lot of narrowing down, and you can stick to keyword searches. So I wouldn't even change to subject or geographic terms here. Just leave these alone and just connect your terms. So if you have like Kansas City and Westport, you can click those, put those together and use and as a connector, and then click search. And as you can see, there is not a lot of stuff here anyway. We only get 35 results. So that's the reason why there's no need to start playing with this, because that's just going to narrow you down even further. And it's not going to take you a lot to get through 35 results. So again, if you come through, most of these are going to have full text right in the database. That is another great thing about Regional Business News. It's not necessarily the case with Academic Search Complete. So you will have your full text automatically for most of these. And if you are in a crunch, then you can come over to the left, and the left is where you find your various limiters. So if you want it to limit to just full text, you could click that. Actually, all 35 of these are full text in the database, so that's good. So you won't have to use interlibrary loan or anything like that to hunt down your full text. You can just go directly into clicking this button. There we go. And your full text is going to be there. This one is very short, so there are probably better examples that I could have used. Let's see here. This is from the Newswire, so it also might be short given that it's a Newswire piece. Well, that's decent. So you've got some, what's up?
Jason, I was going to say, Marissa, you're the person who's interested in Westport and historic preservation. I think there was a story that I just saw that talks about Westport sort of getting popular again as a location. And that's an issue for historic preservation when Kansas City's Westport district is getting hot again. You just scrolled by it. When I see stuff, Jason, that I think might help a particular student, if you don't mind, I'll just point that out. That might be worth looking at, Marissa, because pressure on districts, if people want to build new restaurants or go in and sort of refurbish an area, that can have an impact on preservation. And that's probably true for you, Marcy, also.
Yes, and thank you for that. And by the way, so if you do have a search that looks good in one of these EBSCO databases, then another thing for me to do in order to, another thing that I want to show you just so that you don't lose your results. Can I get the person who is doing Westport preservation, if I can get you to type your email address into the chat, if you don't mind, because I'm going to show you a way to just kind of save what you're doing here. But while I'm waiting for you to do that, a few other things that I want to show you when you come into a record. So if you click the title, that will send you to the record. And there are a few things that I do want to make you all aware of here on the right. These are things that can be helpful for attempting to save items that you found, because one thing you don't want to do is lose something and then have to find it later. So if you go to permalink, this can be helpful if you make like a running list of permalinks for yourself. That way you won't ever lose an article. And what you can do is, again, you can come to the right, click permalink, and you can click this, copy and paste this URL here. So you can copy this and save it somewhere in a Word document or wherever you're saving them. Please get your permalink as opposed to using the URL in the address bar. These are not stable. They can change from day to day whenever updates are made to a database. Sometimes these will change, but the permalinks should not change. So always copy your permalinks. You can save articles. A lot of them will be, most of them will either be in HTML or PDF. So you can come over here to save, and this will give you an option for saving in HTML here. You can also email these to yourselves. I'm old school. When I was in undergrad, that's what we had to do, was we pretty much had to email these things to ourselves. We didn't have all these fancy save features that you young folks get to take advantage of. But yes, so this is what we did back in my day, was we just emailed a bunch of articles to ourselves, and that still works today. You can just type in your email address there and they will go there. And then the last thing that I want to show you all really quick here is, again, don't fall into this trap. So you see over here where it says cite. We do have students who discover this, and then they just scroll down and they say, oh, the citations are already generated. And then they just come down and they pick the citation up and they just copy and paste that into their work. Now, I teach social science, so I do APA, not MLA. So I don't know when MLA is right or wrong. But with this, I will say that this is actually incorrect for APA. And the reason for that is because APA has a very specific style of capitalization for article titles, and you would not capitalize the same way you would for standard English when you're doing an APA citation. So this is wrong. And the reason I'm saying that is because one thing that you all need to know if you are looking at these is that these are only correct 80% of the time. The database generated citations are only correct about 88% of the time. I mean, 80% of the time. And while 80% sounds like it might be good, the thing with that is if you are doing a paper and you have 10 sources, that means there's a good chance that 2 of them are incorrect. So again, do not trust these. They can be used as a starting point, but don't trust them.
Jason, Marissa put her email address in chat. Were you going to send something to her or use
Yes.
the student who's doing Westport Historic Preservation?
Okay, yes. So I just copied her email address here. So the reason I asked for that email address is also because if you all find searches that seem to work and seem to have a lot of things that might be useful, but you need to come back to that search later, like let's say that you find this search and it's got 35 wonderful results, but let's say, I don't know, your mom just called and it's dinner time and she is not going to let you be late. So what you can do to come back to this search later is you can just simply go to share here. And there is a permalink for the, there's a permalink that you can copy and paste. Actually, I'm not seeing the option that I wanted. Oh, here we go. Okay. So you can copy this permalink and save it somewhere and come back later, and this will save the search in a permalink form for you. So that's always good. But then also you can go to where it says email the results, and then you can put in the email there. I'm just going to do Westport and Kansas City. And then I'll just send. And so the student who has that email address, she will have those. They do give you a little time limit. So they are going to ask that you retrieve those items and download them within 168 hours. But now you've got that search there and it will show up in your email address, in your in your email inbox, I'm sorry. And so you can look over that at your own time or when it's a little more convenient. So that's a way to not have to do the same searches over and over again. Okay. All right. So those are the two resources that I'm going to have you all, that I'm going to suggest you all start out with. We've got another chat. Let's see here. Oh, yes, absolutely. You're welcome. So the next thing we're going to do, and we are going to go back to the library homepage. If you have, I'm running a little low on time, so I will just say, if you do have any questions, by all means, type them in the chat, but also don't forget my email address, which I am going to type in here again. And so my email address is in the chat box. So if you need to email me later for some assistance, please by all means do so. Okay, if we go back to the databases listing here from our homepage, which again, and I'm going to keep showing it to y'all in hopes that you don't forget, from databases, go to all subjects and then go to Kansas City Metro Research. All right, now there can be, depending on what you're doing, and this is very hit or miss, but I am going to show you MARC very, very quickly, just because there might be data in here that might be useful for you, or there may not be. But MARC is the Mid-America Regional Council. And so this is serving the Kansas City metro area. And basically, no, there's a lot of helpful information here depending on what you're doing. But when I was browsing this, as I was prepping for this session, I did not see a lot that was going to be helpful for what you all are doing exactly. So that's why I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. However, if you are looking for data, this might be a place that you might want to come. So there are two things that I would say may be of interest from this webpage resource. The first is news releases. So from their homepage, if you go up to news releases, there are not a lot of news releases here. You only see like 2 or 3 per month. So this might be something that you can scroll very, very quickly. And if it's something that seems like it, if you do find something that looks like it might be helpful for your research, then by all means, you can treat this as a credible source, because these are things that were generated either by a local government or by usually a nonprofit that is doing something with government money. So none of these, like I said, none of these looked on the surface to be particularly helpful, but I don't want to rob you of the opportunity to say, actually, that would be helpful for me. So if you see something like this one was Kansas City area residents can find testing sites easily near them, you can just pull up this, this news release and look at the information there.
Jason, it's possible that Marcy, who's interested in the impact of the streetcar extension down Main Street, Marcy, you might take a look and see in regional planning or transportation if there's any discussion of that project.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, I will also say I don't like their, because I was wondering about that myself, and I don't like their search function, because I was really hoping to come up here, put in streetcar and get a lot of returns, but it just was not. As you can see, you've got some things, but these are like, a lot of this is related to traffic regulations. Actually, I didn't see this come up. So this might have been, again, just depending on, I don't know what exactly it's dealing with the, oh, it's just, okay, yeah, it's just a casual mention, it looks like, of the streetcar. But still, again, with the streetcar issue, transportation and regional planning still might be some things that you kind of want to just go into. You may even just need to go into, I hate that these things keep going away like that. I really don't think this design is all that friendly if you don't have the best mouse. All right, but you could go into, for instance, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and see if there's any information on the streetcars within there. You can search with the search function, but again, I don't find it to be so helpful. But as you can see, a few resources have come up, so you may have better luck than perhaps I was at the time. really nothing came up, I think, when I was just, again, doing Crossroads Arts, and I think that almost nothing came up. So that was like disappointing. Yeah, that one thing came up. So, but with data and economy, featured data reports, one thing that may be helpful, depending on, again, what you're doing, is the quality of life reports. So there's one from 2020 and one from 2017 that you would be able to download directly from here. And I would definitely just view the 2020 report. There's a lot of information in there. A lot of it is just raw data, but this type of information, depending on your topic and if you know how to actually use the information that you're looking at, this could be something that's very helpful for you. But yes, again, there's a quality of life from 2020, one from 2017, and then there are a few other data and feature reports that you might want to look at. I would look at the data and feature reports first, but you can also look at the Metro data line and some of these other things. The mapping I was looking at, the mapping stuff sounds sexy, but for what you all are doing, again, I don't see a whole lot of use for it. But again, if you want to just find some data sets or maps, then this is a good place to go as well. Okay. All right. So we've got that. The next thing that I wanted to do. Okay. And we're gonna keep going back here, like I said. Now, the planning and development page, this is another thing that I think is kind of, I actually wish that it didn't take you directly to city. Our link will take you directly to city planning and development. But one thing that I would recommend you all do is to just go to the Kansas City, Missouri homepage, and you can actually just do a search. The search feature here is actually pretty good for locating various information about the campus or about 18th and Vine or Crossroads Arts. And what you can do is just put that in. And as you can see, you don't get bombarded with a whole lot of results. So I've only got 41 results here. That is a manageable number. But one of the things that you are going to have is you're going to have news releases that are related specifically to these things. Now, this one is just pretty typical. It's just telling you that there are going to be traffic interruptions, but depending on what you're researching. And I think, again, with the streetcars, there was quite a bit to look at there. Oh no. Okay, yeah, I actually did not click that link when I saw it earlier. I just saw it and was excited that it was there. But you can type in whatever keywords here as well. And generally there's going to be some pretty good city-specific information. A lot of this is just going to be immediate press releases that the city has generated, but there are going to be some things that might be surprisingly helpful for what you're doing. So like depending on, this could be, if you're doing something for the arts, this might be something that, especially with the links and everything, will lead you to some different information that can be helpful. So, and I recommend really searching for all of the overall districts. Like when you're getting that more broad information, you will see a lot for Crossroads Arts. If you put 18th and Vine in, again, you're going to get a lot of returns there. And there are different things. There are news releases, there are planning documents, whatever the city has made accessible on this website recently. You can access those by just searching keywords there. Okay, and I've got a few other things I want to show, and then and by the time I'm done, it'll probably be about 5:05, and we may have about 10 minutes to get you all started. And then if you have any questions, I'll be available for a few minutes. So one place that I wanted to go to that's actually not, and I'm hoping to update that, page, honestly. You all may want to write this down because this is not linked from the library homepage, but our PBS publication, which is flatlandkc.org. This can be very, very helpful for quite a few of the things that you all are doing. So when I was looking at, no, there wasn't anything specifically, because I saw one very interesting topic that was related to the Kaufman Center and architecture. And I didn't see Kaufman Center and architecture combined as something that you could find information on here. But still, one of the advantages here is because you are dealing with flatlandkc.org as a local website. This is a local PBS resource. Because you're dealing with a local resource, you won't really have to put Kansas City in your searches because it's kind of restricted geographically anyway. So if you just wanted to get some information on Kansas City architecture in general, I hope I spelled that properly. You can just put in that keyword and here you will have. Actually, let me put in Kaufman and see if that comes up with anything. Okay, so there's not a lot here, and this is really just telling you about this one here, for instance, is just telling you about apartments that'll be near the Kaufman Center. But, so this one might be useful for the person who, if you don't already have this, for the person who is doing Kaufman Center and architecture, if this is the same Kaufman Center. I have not lived in Kansas City very long, by the way, so I know that there are like 3 Kaufman Centers. That this is something that may be useful here. Okay.
Ellen, that would probably be useful. And also, Jason, can I just point out, if you scroll down, these links, I'm assuming, if you find an article that has links, like we saw some stuff about Casey Streetcar a couple of screens ago, but there's Moshe Safdie, Ellen, and you can follow those links and see where they take you. So sort of you're looking, you find sources within sources is my point.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for phrasing it that way. That's the perfect way to phrase it. Look for sources within sources. That is going to, especially in this digital age. I think really it was Wikipedia that kind of really took off with that. I remember, again, because I was born in 1983, so I'm probably the age of a lot of your parents. So, but if you were somebody who doesn't remember the pre-Wikipedia days, I remember when you used to have to just put in all of these different web pages in the URL and everything, and you didn't have them linked. And then Wikipedia kind of changed the game because you could link right to the next page, to the next page, to the next page, and now everybody's doing it. So we've got to thank Wikipedia for that, for setting the stage for that. But yes, sources within sources. So once you find a useful source, it will be probably very helpful to actually follow links within that source. Whoever is doing the Kaufman architecture thing, if you can type in your, if you want to put your email address into the chat, I can go ahead and email this to you. Since we pulled it up, we might as well do that. So
Ellen, you're still with us, aren't you, Ellen?
Okay, yeah,
yes.
I've got to check.
Ellen, there's a great quote from the architect in that article that you should track down. He talks about performing arts place is only as good as its acoustics. So.
And this is going to be, this one is pretty helpful for a lot of your different topics, and you don't have to have complicated searches. So like, this is just architecture and Kaufman. And another one, when I put in streetcar, quite a few things came up, and a lot of these things were pretty, they seem like they would be pretty relevant to the streetcar extension, even though they're not specifically talking about the streetcar extension. I think that they still, a lot of these still, when they're dealing with the streetcar issue, they can set up historical context among other things. By the way, make sure you don't forget that this button is down here, this load the next 10 stories button, because some people will, that's the design flaw for this site, is that you can scroll down and then you think you're at the end of the results. And this button really is not as obvious as it probably should be. So you're gonna wanna keep hitting that button until you exhaust your relevant results, basically, is what I'm saying there.
Jason,
But
this is a great source that I hadn't thought about, and I know people that write for this. Thank you. You all, this is probably useful for all of you.
yes, and in fact, it probably should have been what I started out with. But the thing is, I try to start out with our library resources because I'm promoting the library. And again, we haven't linked to this specifically, but yes, flatland.org is awesome. And then also, I don't know where it was. Okay, so also another useful thing is that if you scroll all the way down to the bottom from the homepage, it will link you to two other things that might be useful. For the sake of time, I'm not going into one, but Curious KC and KC PBS. These are also things that are actually probably going to be very useful. And it's again, something similar to where you can go up here to the search, put in your search, and you can get some useful things that way. So rather than go into those again, I'm just going to say start out with Flatland KC because it is the best place to start. But then you will see some more to share links here. And these 4 resources can definitely be helpful as well. So keep those in mind. All right. Cool, cool. The next thing, so I'm going to, yeah, we've got 3 other things. So we are almost done, folks, and I appreciate your patience. I know that library orientations are never the most exciting thing, but what I try to tell people is that if you pay attention now, it's going to save you time later. So, and that's always good. You know, if you pay attention to your library resource orientation, then you might spend half the time doing your library research, and then you have more time in the long run. So that's why I ask people to pay attention and to realize that this can be helpful. All right, the last thing that I'm going to show from our webpage here right now is going to be, again, going back to articles and databases and selecting databases. There's going to be one other thing here. Now, if you go to research guides, and then you go back into Kansas City Metro Research, if you select Kansas City sources, now I'm going to do this very slowly. I'm going to do it over again. So just so you all can see this from the library homepage, databases, research guides, Kansas City Metro Research, Kansas City sources, and then we're going to go to local history, I believe. Yes, local history. So I know this thing says start here and it points you to these 3 things. These 3 things are really not going to be useful for what you all are doing. So I apologize that the 3 things that you see at first are not the best things to start out with. But yeah, where you see articles here from Kansas City sources, that's not necessarily going to be helpful. Here's what will be helpful. If you go to local history, there are quite a few things, including some digitized collections and things like that. We do have links to the American Jazz Museum and some of the other resources that we have as far as partnering with other people. And I would recommend it if you have time, you can try all of these. I did check the digital collections from UMKC earlier. Again, they don't seem to be particularly helpful for what you all are doing, unfortunately. Where you might be able to get some good help, so I'm glad that it's the first one, is if you look at Missouri Valley Special Collections and select this. This is run by the Kansas City Public Library. And again, there is actually kind of an easy search feature to use here. And again, I'm going to use Crossroad Arts as my search term here, because there is one thing that I want you all to be aware of in particular if you use this. This can be very helpful, but you may have to request some things from the public library when you use this. So I'm going to show you what I mean here. If you go to all collections, put in Crossroads Arts and hit search. To the left, as soon as it's finished, there we go. To the left, you will see limiters, just like you will in any other library database. We have our limiters to the left, and then we have our tools to the right. So with our limiters, you will see that most of what you're going to have here are going to be either maps or photographs. And that's because, again, this is kind of a archival special collections thing for the Kansas City Public Library. So if it's a digital collection, then yes, that's why you're going to have mostly images and maps. However, I do like that they have digitized magazine articles and newspaper articles. So those could be helpful. But here's what I want you to keep in mind here. So let's say I do want to look for some magazine articles. I can select magazine article and then be limited to those 40 things. So you see we have 199 objects, and now it's gone down to 40 objects. You can sort by date. So let's say that we did want our newest things first. This will take a little while to load, but it will. Okay. Now here's where, and this is why you need to give yourself some time if you are going to use this resource. This is not a resource that you can hope to find something for your annotated bib the night before. You have to give yourself some time on this. Let's say that this Building an Empire magazine article is something that you really think is going to be helpful. Unfortunately, because of COVID, normally during normal times, you would be able to just go to Kansas City Public Library or to wherever this collection is housed, and you can just look at it while you're there. Unfortunately, COVID is making that a little harder to do these days. So if the document that you are looking at from the Kansas City Public Library kchistory.org site, if it's not available online, then what you need to do is you are welcome. You can still visit the Missouri Valley Room, or you can request a photocopy by emailing them at this email address, document@kclibrary.org. And what they will do, you will not necessarily be able to get these things from them. It just depends on if they can do the copyright clearance or not. And so that's what they'll do if you put in that request. So again, this is not a resource that you can use the night before. You have to give them time to see if they can actually do any sort of sharing of this file without violating any copyright. So just keep that in mind. But this can be a helpful source of information as well, especially if you're looking for something historic. And I don't know if Dr. Wood is going to allow you to have things like images in your annotated bibliography. But again, if maps or photographs can be helpful for you, then this is the perfect place to come for maps or photographs, okay? So I've got a historic map here. Okay. So, and there are times when even you won't have that option to email them. You might just have to go to the Missouri Valley Room. And I don't know exactly what their COVID protocols are. So I would call ahead and see if you're able to access, if you need to schedule an appointment or something to access. But their phone number is right down there. All right, we are almost done, folks. Thank you again for hanging in. Two more big things we're going to show. First, before I even show the Mid-Continent Public Library to access the KC Star, I am going to access our catalog really quickly. So if you were looking specifically for a book that Miller Nichols had, or some sort of digitized collection that Miller Nichols had, what you might want to do, a lot of students will start here. And this is an aggregated search that will find articles, that will find books, that will find other media. But I do not recommend starting there if you are looking specifically for book sources for your annotated bibliography. I would actually recommend where you see books and journals. If you are looking specifically for physical books that you might be able to get at Miller Nichols, and we are checking out books now. We have, we figured out our own sanitation process, so we are loaning out physical materials again, and they can help you with that at the circulation desk. But if you go to library catalog, and if you're looking for a physical book, again, let's say you were looking for something about 18th and Vine, what you can do is type in 18th and Vine there, click submit, and various resources are going to pop up here. A lot of these, as you can see, are in these special collections, or they're in the robot. So you might have to put in what they call a robot request in order to get that out of storage. And if you need any help with that, just call or call or chat or whatever the case may be. And if you contact us, we will help you with getting things out of storage. But you can also look for books that can be checked out this way as well. So if you see something like this that says not checked out, it can be checked out. So the Vine Street Rumble live thing can be checked out. It's a DVD. But a lot of these are special collections and they are only within, you will see, if you see library use only, then you can make photocopies and things of that nature. You can scan, but you cannot actually check that material out. All right. And again, you can search for Streetcar, you can search for Crossroads Arts, you can search for UMKC, and different things will pop up there. All right, and I know we are almost out of time. There was a lot that I wanted to share with y'all, and we just have one more thing here. Let's see. If you need the Kansas City Star, and I recommend that you use the Kansas City Star, all of the local public libraries have access to the Kansas City Star. It's just that the academic library does not. So Mid-Continent, Johnson Public, Wyandotte, KCK, KCPL, all of them do have the Kansas City Star. And if you are, again, for the most part, you can actually, for instance, if you just Google join Mid-Continent Public Library, you can actually join Mid-Continent Public Library for free if you're not already a member, and you will not even have to actually step foot in the library. I actually joined Mid-Continent Public Library without ever having walked into that library. So you can register online and follow the steps, and then you will have a library card and access usually within 48 hours. And you can be in Clay County, Platte County, or Jackson County, Missouri. But there's also reciprocal, again, with Johnson County, and I believe also with Wyandotte and with Kansas City, Kansas, as far as being able to join this. So you should be able to join this Mid-Continent Public Library system pretty much no matter where you live in the metro area. So from there, if you ever need to look at the Kansas City Star, just go to Research and Learning. And you can do the browse subjects if you want. That'll probably take you there quicker. And then scroll down to news. Well, newspapers. View resources. And again, this is where you're going to find that Kansas City Star. We do have access to the Kansas City Business Journal. That was the first thing I showed you. But you can go into the Kansas City Star. Again, you will need that library card. I put in my library card earlier, so that's why it is doing this. Now, I recommend you do the advanced search. So if you go to advanced search here, let's say again that you're doing Streetcar. So you can put Streetcar in here. But what I recommend you do, this is going to come up with a lot of results. So when you're searching for the Kansas City Star, I recommend that when you put in a search term, that you also limit yourself either to lead, first paragraph, or to headline. And that way you will know that what you are dealing with is the articles that you're pulling back from the Kansas City Star. They are dealing specifically with Streetcar or the Streetcar project, as opposed to just mentioning them somewhere. So again, you're going to want to probably, where it says select a field optional, when you're searching the newspaper, select either lead or first paragraph or headline. I'm going to search headline right now and then click search. And I used to be a newspaper reporter, so I have some insight into this. Yes, if you see Streetcar in the headline, the editors of a newspaper are going to try to make the headline as relevant as possible, because to be quite honest, what a lot of people do is they read the headline of the article and not the article, and then they think they've been informed. That is a big problem on social media in particular. Please, you all read articles and not just headlines, because that is how a lot of misinformation these days is spreading, through people reading headlines and nothing else. But if you search for Streetcar as a headline, and then you will see these various things pop up. You can limit yourself to dates if you want. As you can see, we've got a long time where there's nothing. There's like one article before 1919, and then you don't see them again until 1990. But you can limit to dates. You can limit to best match. I like to leave newspaper articles for newest first. And same deal. You can click the title, and that full text will come up. So you've got all your full text there, and then you will have resources that will allow you to save or download. You can print out, permalink here, and then also, again, you can email to yourself that way. So I am pretty much right at 5:15. I apologize that I didn't really leave time for you all to do independent searching, but there was just a lot of stuff that I just wanted to kind of go over in that overview there. Again, though, I am going to be available. My email address is in the chat. Also, Dr. Wood has my email address, austinj@missouri.edu. So if you have any questions, please get back with me at a later time. But I think you all are at dismissal time for the class. So I appreciate your time. And Dr. Wood, go ahead.
Yes, and Jason first, thank you. Wow. You guys, I am always amazed at how much I learn. And I have been through many, many of these sessions, but that was really informative. I'm really excited. I would suggest don't feel overwhelmed, okay? I saw something probably relevant for all of you. Marcy, you need to get the Kansas City Star access so that you can look at that streetcar stuff. But I would suggest that everybody try to follow up on at least one source that Jason alerted you to. Start with one and see where it goes. If nothing else, some of these locally produced articles may have an expert like Flatlander. There are probably people that are being quoted in those stories that would be relevant. So see what you can get done between now and Thursday. We'll work together in class on more of this. I would also really encourage you, if you have questions, write Jason directly, because he's the guy who's just helped us with all of this and he's really familiar with it. And in my experience, the librarians are always really receptive to questions. And you're going to send me the recording of this, Jason. I can post it in Canvas. Meanwhile, any last minute questions, concerns? Okay. Thanks again, Jason. Wow.
Thank
that was
you.
a lot of information, but really appreciate it.
Anytime. And yes, don't be shy about reaching out to me. And also, if you reach out to me, also that remains confidential. You all look like a very responsible group, and I'll just be honest, especially with, I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but especially with male students, they tend to just wait until the night before. And so if you wait till the night before and you need me to bail you out, by all means, I'm actually checking my emails all into the night. So if you're in a crunch, I won't tell Dr. Wood if you talk to me on the last day before the assignment is due. I will help you out and it'll stay between us.
Okay, but we're not going to develop those kinds of bad habits. So, okay, Amy, I'll send you a Zoom invitation. Does anybody else need to talk to me after class? Because this is Jason's Zoom and he's going to leave. Okay, Amy, I'll send you an invitation and email, okay? All right. Thanks again. I'll see you all in class on Thursday.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.